Welcome everyone this evening. We're so happy to see you for Take the Lead's April Virtual Happy Hour with Claudia Chan. Just to tell you a little bit about Take the Lead's mission, our goal is to prepare, develop, inspire, and propel women to take their fair and equal share of leadership positions across all sectors by 2025. So we've got a big mission, and we're thrilled to have the opportunity to collaborate with fabulous people like Claudia Chan, and you're going to hear all about her work, her entrepreneurship, her vision for women globally. You'll be inspired and you'll be ready to rock and roll when we're finished with this hour this evening. We're pleased to present these virtual happy hours every month, and every month we have a new presenter and a new topic. I know you're not going to want to miss our May happy hour, virtual happy hour with journalist Jessica Bennett, and that is going to be on man-terrupting and tools to speak the language of gender bilingual communication. So you can go ahead and claim your free spot today if you want to by going to taketheleadwomen.com. And always know that Take the Lead is your resource for yourself or your organization for leadership development, for courses, workshops, keynotes, online and in person. You can just check out our website anytime. Again, taketheleadwomen.com, and you can find what's going on, see updates, and schedule us to come to your company or to your organization to do any of these programs, or see the programs that we are already doing. Take the Lead this week, you can also sign up for, that's our weekly newsletter digest, where we break down the biggest news on women's leadership so you can read it in 5 minutes or less. How about that? We're all so busy, it's a great asset to have that. We really want your questions, so just to give you a bit of a heads up on how to do that, just below your screen for the webcast, you will see that there's a place for you to set your name and location in the question and answer, for the question and answer under the video stream. And first you select the pencil, then you type in your name and your location, and you click OK. You can also live tweet us, by the way. We'll be following our Twitter stream, and if you'd prefer to live tweet us, that would be just perfectly fine. We will get your questions there. You can use the Twitter handles also tonight if you would like. It's Take Lead Women's Twitter handle is @TakeLeadWomen, @TakeLeadWomen, and there's @Claudia Chan for Claudia, and @Gloria Feldt for yours truly, Gloria Feldt. I am co-founder and president of Take the Lead. I forgot to introduce myself, which is my want. I always do that. So I'm doing it belatedly. We also have a hashtag we'd love for you to use. It's hashtag 25 not 95. And we use that because we're asking everybody we know to take the pledge that we're going to reach women's leadership parity by 2025, not 2095, as the World Economic Forum has predicted. We think we can go a lot faster, and I know that together we certainly can. You can stay connected with Take the Lead also by following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, at Take the Lead Women. And you can also join our community circle on Mighty Bell to continue this conversation. So how about let's get started? It's a virtual happy hour. Excuse me, it's always happy hour somewhere. So feel free to grab a glass of wine, a cup of coffee or tea, or whatever your favorite libation might be, and kick back and let's get started. I am truly, truly thrilled and honored to introduce you tonight to my friend Claudia Chan. I first met Claudia when she was barely beginning ClaudiaChan.com. She had a big vision, and she reached out to me and asked me if I would do a video with her, which I did. She has a fantastic website full of all kinds of inspirational women telling their stories, and there's so many resources on ClaudiaChan.com. You're going to want to check it out early and often and daily, because she's always got something wonderful going on there. Claudia is a women's empowerment expert. She's the CEO of S.H.E, Globl Media, and she's, I would call her a serial entrepreneur. And by the way, happy birthday, Claudia. I know yesterday was your birthday, and I think we should keep on celebrating. I personally have a policy of celebrating for at least a month. So, Claudia, if you would, how about starting at the beginning? How did you get to be you? What is your personal story, and what brought you to where you are today?
I love that question. I wish I had a cocktail for that question, actually. Well, thank you so much, Gloria, for that introduction. And your friendship is so important to me, and you're one of my role models, and I'm just so blown away by what you've done with Take the Lead Women. So congratulations. It's always an honor to converse with you about our mutual favorite subject, which is women's empowerment and leadership. So my story is that I essentially grew up around women and was immersed in the community of women my entire life. Born in New York City, I went to an all-girls high school, then an all-women's college, Smith College, and then I proceeded to run a women's entertainment company for 10 years. I became an entrepreneur pretty quickly out of school. It was called S.H.E, and we did girls' night out shopping parties around America. And I was about 25 to 35 years old running that business, which grew pretty quickly. But what brought me into women's empowerment is that towards the end of that first entrepreneurial journey, I started. I felt like I had achieved material success, but I lacked purpose, and I lacked a greater sense of meaning as to what I was doing. And around that time, I started getting more involved in women's groups and organizations, and I read Half the Sky and really just became obsessed about learning about the state of women. And at 35, really after really digesting, where women were in corporate leadership, to the workforce, to society, women in poverty, women in industries, sort of all the first world, sort of statistics, then to globally third world women's issues, on, girls, and if they're born, they're lucky if they can survive rape or gender-based violence. And anyway, so basically I realized that, it's pretty ridiculous that how is it that me and all the women that I know that are educated don't think about these daily issues? And that's when I realized there was a major societal void and void in society that was really educating women on the state of women and getting women to care about the state of women. And there was just media is perpetually the media that women are consuming was so focused on fashion and beauty and entertainment and really not about empowerment and not about these issues. So thus I decided to create and fill that white space and create S.H.E Globl Media. It stands for She Helps Empower the Globe, and to create content and conferences and eventually curriculum that would empower women and really mainstream these women's issues, make them relevant, and essentially inspire women to not only lead their limitless potential in career and life, but then also educate them and get them to care about women's issues. And so, because that was my journey. So how do I get to that girl at like 18 years old or 24 years old so she starts caring about the revolution, the women's movement sooner than later, and really think and define for herself what it means to be a woman today and what my responsibility is as a woman today.
Wow, that's big, Claudia. That's really big. I mean, seriously, I have to sort of drink it all in and think about the power of that vision. It's phenomenal. So I want to ask you a question about how you chose to do it the way you're doing it. And obviously, as an entrepreneur, you've got this big vision that's a very social good oriented vision, but you're also running a business. I mean, you're running it. It is a business, and it can't be easy to do that. Mm-hmm. For the women out there who are considering becoming entrepreneurs or who are just kind of at the early stages, what are the 3 most important questions you think an aspiring entrepreneur ought to ask herself before she jumps into the fray?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think the first thing to know is, choosing the entrepreneurial lifestyle is a very different lifestyle than having a job at a company and working for somebody else. It really is. I always, now that I'm on my second, actually technically third business, because before I went to S.H.E, I created a company that merged into S.H.E. So it really is a lifestyle, and it's like, I guess and being 7 months pregnant, I think I can, use this analogy, but it really is, having a baby. It's really, it's 24/7, and especially in the early years where, so much of who you are is tied in with this entity that you are creating. And again, the success of a business is not so much the business, it's the person behind the business. So, it's definitely by becoming an entrepreneur, you really need to ask yourself, like, am I ready for this lifestyle? Because, unlike clocking out at, 5, 7, 8 p.m. from a company you work at, it's just something that you're going to think about constantly. And I know, Gloria, you've come from the nonprofit world, and I honestly think, nonprofit leaders are social entrepreneurs, because you're still
Right.
running a P&L, you're still running an organization, you still need to generate revenues and funding and managing a team and all of that. So it's very similar, but it's really when you decide to run an organization, to ideate, to birth, to create, to continue to manage and take it to its full life cycle, and that can be endless. It is really a true commitment. So I think that's the first thing, is really, find out and really do some deep thinking about, your personality and and if you're a work-life balance type of person, just know that a lot of that's going to go out the window, because it's all about integration. It's all about integrating your business into your lifestyle. I think those are the most successful entrepreneurs, those that can, and I hate the term work-life balance. It's really about integration.
Me too.
Yes.
Yes. No, I like that. I like what you
Yeah.
just said about work-life integration. I totally believe every day is a series of choices for everybody.
Exactly.
And if you choose to be an entrepreneur, I think you've raised a lot of really good issues for people to think about. We have some questions already coming in, so I'm going to ask one. But before I do, just in case somebody tuned in late, I want to be sure to remind you that you can submit your questions using the question and answer chat on the screen below the live stream on your computer, and you just have to remember to put your name in and your location using the pencil, that little pencil icon, so we know who you are, and then you type in your question. Or you can tweet at Take Lead Women. Either way, whatever's easier for you. We really want to hear from you, want your questions. So this question is from Joanne Tombrakos in New York, founder and chief storyteller at JT International. And she says, it's interesting that you just talked about the 24/7 lifestyle, because her question really has to do with that. And by the way, she says she's a huge fan. So there you go, right? She says, my question has to do with our 24/7 lives. As someone whose business it is to demystify digital, I also believe that truly being digitally savvy means knowing when to turn it all off, or, as I like to say, go off the grid. Especially not easy for women.
Mm-hmm.
The question, I think that question is, how do you go off the grid if you're a female entrepreneur or any kind of an entrepreneur?
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I think it's something that the definition changes, I think, depending on where you are in the evolution of being an entrepreneur. But I lately I've been talking a lot about the concept around being the CEO of your life, and I really live by that mantra or that concept, because I think we all tend to silo. Women tend to silo, and maybe men too. Here's work stuff. Here's financial organization stuff. Here's family time stuff. Here's workout fitness time stuff. Here's my social life stuff. Right? We've got all these different buckets in which we where we categorize, this is work, this is life, and I think a lot of women can, especially entrepreneurs, can fall into the trap of, okay, my life is 80-90% work stuff, and then 10% of it's the other lifestyle bucket of finances, social life, and everything else. So I think I love living with my strategy is really thinking of myself, I'm the CEO of my life. And all of those categories I mentioned are the departments of my life. And so given any week or any time, like, I'll step back and say, okay, for example, I'm giving birth to my first child in June. And I've got 2.5 months until then, and I have, certain priorities, business priorities, financial priorities, like home priorities. And, so my strategic plan in terms of from now until then is, what is as the CEO of my life, and these being my priorities, how am I then strategizing for that? And then through that, I find that it's much easier to carve out depugging and carve out when you have clarity on what your priorities are and your goals that you have to get done within that period of time, it's a lot easier to define the time that you're going to take for yourself and what that self-care even means. It could mean I really need to up my exercise routine. It could mean I really need to work on this personal thing. I really need to spend more time with my mother, with my family, with my husband, whatever it is, right? But I think that's a great strategy that has worked really well for me in terms of, like, because when you have that proactive plan, you're able to carve out personal time and deplug time that then is critical to balancing everything else out.
Yeah, proactive seems to be the key word, and you were just mentioning that you're about to have a baby, and having done that 3 times, I know that it changes your life a lot more than you ever think it's going to. Mm-hmm. And it just happens we have a question from Melinda Epler who says, "What's it like having a child while having a startup?"
Well, I haven't had the child yet, but I have been, I've gone through 2 trimesters now, and I actually just got back from Korea because I was there on behalf of the U.S. State Department, speaking to women as a women's empowerment thought leader speaker, and it was like, I guess that's the closest thing I have to, like, physically, you have a physical, physical responsibility, right? My body's creating a child right now, and at the same time, I have this massive, one of the biggest projects that I've ever been offered in my life to execute. So to answer her question, I think you follow your instincts. I think I always have a plan for how again, if I know that those are a few priorities that are coming up and I'm taking on these big projects, I have an idea in my mind of what is my plan to manage and execute this, but then I also have that flexibility, and then I talk to as many friends as possible, and learn about their tricks. I'm always asking other people for advice. But I think it's, having that plan and at the same time having that flexibility and that plan B, and then just trusting yourself, your gut, that no matter what, you're going to figure it out, and that you have all the resources and intelligence to do so, and to remember to ask for help as you need it.
So important to trust your own instinct. Mm-hmm. I would totally go with you on that. I wanted to ask you why you chose a media platform to achieve your mission of women's empowerment as opposed to some other way that you might have done it. And as you're answering that question, I also want you to consider this question from Michelle Herrera Mulligan, who's the editor of Cosmo for Latinas magazine. And she says, how do you get mainstream media to see women of color issues as mainstream issues? Great question.
Definitely. So the first question, I chose media. So media and events were my background. It's the last company that I had created, and so it was what I was familiar with, right? That was sort of my upbringing in my career and in my business and entrepreneurial world. So creating events, I've always had a knack for creating content in a way that appeals to mass female audiences. And so how do I make them crave it, want it, making it sexy, making it relevant? And that's what I felt was the problem around empowerment, and so basically, because S.H.E was all about girls' night out, for $40, $50, come get a huge gift bag, cocktails all night, and discount shopping. It was very disruptive at the time in like 2001 when we started the whole thing, and that was the female culture back then. But I essentially wanted to take those sort of mass girlfriend group rallying skills and bring it to women's empowerment. How do I talk about, which is why I started interviewing women first, right? Like, I can't talk about women's issues. Like, nobody's going to want to read about that, but they do want to read an interview with the founder of Guilt, or, Tory Burch, or Arianna Huffington, or the founder, somebody who changed the world, as a humanitarian. So, and making it really modern and beautiful. So I chose media for that reason. It was my background. But it's media and education. It's media and education is actually where we're going much deeper into. To me, it's really exciting. I mean, we at the end of the day, we feel like all the empowerment education out there for women across any leadership or lifestyle topic truly is universal. It's really all the same type of content. It's just there's just a million different voices out there. And we want to continue to be the curator of those voices and aggregator of all of that content. Through our conference, She Summit, through She University, our education platform that we're launching, et cetera. And to answer the question around diversity. Can you just repeat? It was basically,
Sure.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She's asking how do you get mainstream media to see women of color as mainstream issues?
Yeah. It's interesting because the pay gap. I was just at a conference and I was talking about how women make 77 cents of the man's dollar, and that's Caucasian women, right? If we go African American or Asian American, the numbers just start. A lot of people think feminism, modern feminism, and and the whole women's conversation that's happening now is a white women's fight, and women of color are not included in that, and they feel very left out. I've definitely heard that from a lot of different groups. I think that we need to celebrate the fact that there's the activity and the movement that exists today, and that there has been progress, and we have to start somewhere. And I think that I think right now it's more women as a whole, and then I think we need more groups, and we need more activists. We need more Take the Leads. We need more She platforms. We need more nonprofit organizations and social enterprises creating stuff in then African American women in X, and women of color in X. Like we need more of you and me's speaking up for those very specific diversity causes. But it has to start somewhere, and we've started, and we're in, I believe, the fourth wave of feminism right now. So it's just that's how we create that change.
So we use the power of our voices. We need to use the power of our voices. I hear you saying that in different ways over and over and over again.
Definitely.
Nobody's going to speak for us, really. We have to use the power of our voices.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I don't know, the Cosmo editor that just asked the question. I don't know if she, perhaps if something personal to her, she starts an initiative inside Cosmo or at Hearst, or she starts her own nonprofit, or she writes about it from an editorial perspective. There's just so much that we can do to take action, and that's why all of us need to care about at least one women's issue and do something. If we all commit to creating change in one issue, then the aggregation of all of that is what accelerates us to 25 over 95, right? That's what drives the acceleration. Is we need more participation, more activity, more activism.
Right. And of course it will take more money to do that. So I want to ask you some money questions and financing questions, which again kind of take us back to the issue of entrepreneurism, because we know that women get about 10% of the VC money. We know that the size of the businesses, although women are starting new businesses at an astonishing rate these days, and I think about 40% of the new businesses are now started by women, and that's just escalating all the time. Still, the size of the businesses that women start tend to be like around $8,000 on average, where the size of the businesses that men tend to start with around $30,000 on average, and you can just sort of extrapolate from that into the size of the vision and the size of, everything just kind of multiplies out of that exponentially. And so what advice do you have for women who are wanting to start businesses, need to get financing? Do you think it's best to go for self-financing, bank financing, crowdsourcing, try to VC? What do you think is most effective for women?
Well, I think the answer to this also ties into, one of the questions you have to ask yourself before starting a business. And really, I would talk to a lot of entrepreneurs about other women who have started businesses and understand how they've done it, but ultimately really understand and think about your personal lifestyle and your personal appetite for financial risk and where you are personally from a financial perspective. Everybody starts off at a different place. I know somebody who, is really worried about spending her savings on creating a business, whereas other people, are much more daring and much more risk accepting of taking that risk. So I think, but investing, whether it's like $50, $25, $50, $100,000, $10,000, whatever, I think putting, getting real with yourself about that piece, because my whole thing is just get going. Whatever you can do to get that brand and product going, just get started. And I'm a huge fan of taking that risk and using some of your money to get it started. So I think that's one of the questions you have to ask yourself. Now, if you're going to go out there and raise if you're going to go out there and raise capital from a third-party individual or company, then all of a sudden that's where accountability and having, even though you're not technically working for somebody anymore, you're still now accountable. You're taking somebody else's money, and it's not exactly like having a boss, but it's having people to answer to. Like they're going to want to see your strategic plan. You're going to have accountability and reporting and really follow.
But maybe that's good. Maybe it's good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good to have that kind of a thorough plan and accountability.
Exactly. So I think that those are some of the questions you need to ask yourself. But the difference is, angel investing is usually like $25,000. It's friends and family. It's a more informal process. It can be formal or informal. Venture capital usually is when you really want to go there, and usually you have to be a tech company to raise venture capital money. But you want to go there because they're going to expect you to either sell the company or to go public in the next 5 to 10 year trajectory. So it's I think people confuse women's entrepreneurship is one thing, but it's really it comes in all shapes and sizes, right? Like Rent the Runway, Birchbox, LearnVest, Daily Worth. Actually, I'm not sure about Daily Worth, but most of those are all venture capital backed. They have Series A, B, C rounds, and they're expected, to sell for, a very large sum of money. Those investors expect huge exits, but very few of them do exit. And so, and you spend honestly a big part of your initial part of your business life just raising capital, as opposed to getting going on building the actual product and actually executing on the business. So, those are just some of the questions to ask yourself. Do I want to be that type of big tech VC-backed female entrepreneur, or do I really want to build this and grow this in my own pace, raise some friends and family money, like do a crowdfunding, like Kickstarter campaign, take my savings, borrow from mom and dad, like those are very two different ways to go.
Right. So I'm going to bounce back to the media question here, and so if we can we're just kind of like ping-ponging here from entrepreneurship to your media platform, but we've got all these great questions, and in asking you this question, I want to give a big shout out to a group of women who are gathered in Arizona right now, starting Take the Lead Arizona. And this is a question from Dana Campbell-Saylor, who is the leader of the pack.
Hi, Dana.
And she says, Claudia, the emphasis on empowerment marketing over sexy marketing is such a critical part of women and girls empowerment. How do you suggest we increase awareness and accelerate change in the media overall? It's a great question.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a great. She must have read this. Dana must have read the same article that I read, because I think there was a Time Inc. article that was like empowerment marketing versus sexy marketing. So I think that to me, media is a massive force of that we need participating in the women's movement and in women's empowerment, because they educate women on it's the television shows that you're watching, the magazines that you're reading, the commercials, the celebrities, they are all spokespeople for messaging and consciousness, right? So we need them driving, we need them preaching, more positive things to women. And so, when Taylor Swift says, talks about feminism, or, Beyonce at the VMA Awards, and her huge event last fall, stating that she was a feminist, that moves the needle. When marketers and advertisers are now pulling down, it used to be all about being thin and beautiful, and now it's about something more meaningful. That is huge, because that's educating girls on a specific topic. I'm a huge fan of Always' #LikeAGirl campaign. I'm the global spokesperson for Gillette Venus this year, and their #UseYourAnd campaign, which is all about celebrating your multidimensionality to empower you. I am a mother, I am an entrepreneur, I am an activist, I am, there's something about the affirmation of really feeling and being our diversity of who we are, the multi-dimension of who we are, that empowers us. This is what empowerment marketing is doing. It's teaching women and giving them new perspective, creating this consciousness. So I think that empowerment marketing is really huge. I think that, if you are if you create content in any capacity for women, you're a blogger, you're a writer for a magazine, you're an editor, you're an anchor, woman, you are a reporter. I mean, just get women's issues out there and do it in a way that gets women to care, gets men and women to care, and gets society to care. So media is such a powerful force, if not the most powerful force, out there, to basically affect and accelerate change. And then because when media is talking about it, that's a reflection of what society cares about, and then all of a sudden, corporations start caring about it, governments, politicians, and it becomes more part of the corporate agenda, and it's a ripple effect from there. So media can really ripple effect change, and I definitely preach that a lot in all of my work.
Very definitely. The media forms us as it informs us. It's all around us all the time. We're in such a mediated society. So
yeah, and it's education. It's really getting into our consciousness, and it's forming our perspectives on things without us even really thinking that it is. It is.
Right. Totally. So here's a question from Austin, Texas, from Sunny Riegelman. She asks, I've been told to elbow my way to the table, but also not to come on too confident. Do you have advice for women who are trying to strike this balance in business?
Yeah, I mean, it's just think it's really, at the end of the day, you need to be assertive and extremely confident in yourself and in your vision for what you want to get, whether it's for your business or for your purpose or your dreams in your life. But you do need to be charismatic about it. You can't stalk someone. You can't be too aggressive. It's really, I think that
does that hold true for both men and women, or is that something that's just particular to women?
I think that's something for men and women. I really just think of it as like a human social etiquette that, I think that, every single person needs to find that balance, right? Of how do I go after something without crossing the line, and I think that that's just something for like if you're surrounded by hopefully people that can give you that feedback, or you're also a student and you watch how other people do it. If there's people you really respect, or colleagues, or managers, or and you see how they do it, I think just continue to learn. For me, it's always been very instinctual. But I also think that for women specifically, I mean, so that's sort of like whether you're a men or women, but I think for women specifically, women do tend to not be assertive enough because they're afraid. It's uncomfortable for women, right? Whereas it's more comfortable for men to be more assertive. And I think that's a female issue. Like that's something where, to really step up your game, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
It makes the best of sense to me. I mean, we know that there's always a double bind for women. That if you're tough, you're too tough, and if you're not tough enough, you're not tough enough. And
yeah.
So there is this double bind, and it all has to do with a lot of what's called stereotype threat, and of course implicit bias that remains in the system that we have to deal with. But I think your advice is very sound. That essentially, if we think of it as simply being human relationships. And how do we make those human relationships work?
Exactly.
Perhaps it's easier to deal with in that sense.
It is.
So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'm going to jump over into having you talk about the SHE Summit, because I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for that. So I've heard it said, actually, by Loretta McCarthy from Golden Seeds, a group that invests in women-led companies, that one of the most important qualities an entrepreneur must have is, quote unquote, excellent judgment. Making the right choices each and every day, and you have emphasized that over and over and over again, that there are these choices to be made each and every day, that ability can define success or failure. So here's the question: how can somebody learn excellent judgment? Is that a learnable skill? How do you actually learn that real fundamental skill that enables you to make those good decisions every day that keep you moving forward toward your goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, for me, it's very much around having this relentless internal foundation of confidence and of values and a belief system in yourself. So, you know, I think I always talk about, women really, for us to really define, what are our values, what are, our principles that we want to live our lives by, to align our actions with, our decisions with, and then trust in that. And also just trust in your raw gut instinct. I think that there's a saying in the yoga meditation that bow to the guru inside of you, like the guru and who you are inside is what you seek. Like you already have all the wisdom that there is. So I think so much of it is really just trusting your gut and your instinct, and ideally you've developed and defined values for yourself, and yourself well enough to then make that decision, make that correct judgment, the best judgment that you can for your life, for your company. The other thing is, so I constantly look into, how do I feel about this? Like, what's my opinion about this? Like, what feels like should I go left? Should I go right? Should I do a U-turn? What should I do? And then I trust myself. And we also have to think that like visions that we get and those feelings are actually casted on us. Like they're actually, the universe is actually like they're imprinted on us for a reason. Like we have ideas and we have feelings for a reason. And so it's just constant, like getting that trust from the inside and not looking outside for that. But at the same time, you only build that internal value and confidence system, by learning in the external world, right? And I think life is just a constant journey of, let me experience life. I'm going to go through lots of obstacles, lots of challenges. I'm going to follow my instincts. And then as you learn a lot of lessons, you discern what it is that you're going to hold on to, that you're going to add to your internal value system and belief system, and then you're going to not take on other things that you learn. So, so it's just this constant personal growth and self-education process. And for me, that has been the most powerful thing. It's like when we continue to believe in ourselves and our instincts and really follow through on our visions, and when something doesn't feel right, then you really can just trust and have faith in that path and walk that path. So if you can confidently do that, then you just have to, then you will be led to where you're meant to go. And I also believe that everything is in perfect order. Like you're exactly where you're meant to be right now, because that's been your path.
Well, your path has led you to create the S.H.E Summit. And I have had the pleasure of seeing how that has grown since the very first one. Big vision. And let's take a minute now, and we're going to show a little video clip of you talking about the S.H.E Summit, and then I'm going to be able to ask you some questions, and people can ask some questions if they want to about what S.H.E Summit 2015 is going to hold for us. So let's watch this video clip.
Okay.
S.H.E Summit is significant because it is literally a global event to acknowledge, celebrate, and accelerate a new era of a women's revolution that is happening here and now. I call it the S.H.E Revolution.
3 years ago, Claudia Chan set out to create a unique women's leadership and lifestyle summit that would make empowerment accessible to all women in the world.
Define success for yourself. Don't let anyone define it for you. Be an ally to other women. Sponsor them, mentor them, listen to them, share stories with them. And remember that we are better together than we are divided.
It was founded with the belief that if she is exposed to a diversity of female and male role models, empowerment stories and solutions, tools for personal and professional growth, education on women's issues and how to support them, realizations of personal power and potential, and a supportive network that helps advance her career and life, she will not only lead more optimally in her own life, but also transform our culture for the betterment of other women and the world.
If I'm going to do journalism today, I want to do it for something that's worth it. And women brought me that.
To be able to empower our sisters, and daughters and wives on the other side of the continent.
We are our tribe, and we need to help each other.
My mission was to man up
as well as girl up, and to get every other man out there to do the same thing.
It's in everybody's interest for women to be at the table. It's not just in the interests of righteousness and equality.
The best return a woman can get is to ask for the raise.
Because you're smart and you're resilient, and there are tons of things that you can do.
Work with women, and work with women who are organizing to bring a change, because that's really important for all of us. Thank you.
Now, into its 4th year, it has become a globally celebrated women's empowerment event, reaching over 200 million social media impressions, engaging She-at meetups in over 100 countries, and convening hundreds of today's thought leaders. But She Summit is more than just a conference. It is a global celebration of where women are today and an acceleration of how women are advancing.
I'm honored to stand with you today as we work towards furthering women empowerment in the public and private sector.
It is the big tent for today's modern women's movements and campaigns to come together as a collective force. Join Claudia Chan and fellow partners igniting change to enrich lives, inspire social good, and foster generations of female leaders and changemakers across the world.
What's going to be in store for us at She Summit 2015, and do you have exact dates yet?
Yeah, it's October 6th and 7th this year in New York City at the 92nd Street Y, which is an incredible cultural education institution that's been around for a long time. You know, our whole mission around this conference is really, you know, this is where I created it to be the world's most accessible women's empowerment conference. You know, so much of what, you know, before I launched the company, I just felt so many of the women's conferences out there were very expensive or exclusive, or, you know, very hard to get into. You had to be very powerful or very senior to access them, or they were very siloed or, you know, scattered in terms of topics and industries, you know, very specific. And I felt like there needed to be a big tent type of conference that would give you access to all kinds of speakers. And so we have 80 humanitarians, celebrities, authors, experts, all kinds of speakers, and we talk about so many women's issues and so many women's empowerment topics. So it's really special in that way. I think since your audience, Take the Lead's audience that's tuning in right now, is really from all over the country and other parts of the world too. Our call to action here is, you know, we would love for you to organize a She meetup around the conference this year. I know Dana, who you mentioned, who has a group. You know, I believe you said Texas. I can't remember.
She's in Arizona. Sunny was in Texas.
You know, but that's exactly what, you know, we want to spread the content, and there's lots of, you know, women like Dana to organizations and nonprofits and companies that we want to really, you know, leverage this content for their own local initiatives, and, you know, and also, if you're in New York City, please attend. The tickets start at, I believe, $109, really affordable for the one day, and there's a 1 day and 2 day ticket. And it's just great networking, and it's great education, self-empowerment, self-education, and it will, you know, the goal of this is just to completely leap women forward to the next level in terms of their personal empowerment and confidence in achieving what they want to achieve. And we get them to really care, hopefully, about the movement. So that's what we need. We need full participation.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think there's no question that women really do care, and that we're all looking for these opportunities when we can come together and mass our strengths and really make great things happen. We've had several questions for you about your advice for startups led by women who have full-time jobs, or whether you think it's best to, you know, should you just take the plunge and jump out and leave your job and go right into starting your business. One from Lisa and one from Raquel Zuzarte. So we're curious about that.
Definitely. I think that's a great question. I think that, honestly, I'm all about just getting started. And having a job while getting something started on the side is a great way to ease yourself into it. Because it's obviously you're still making that salary. You don't feel like you're hemorrhaging money. Whether it's like get a blog going or get the website going or start developing the timeline, your strategic goals for year one. So I think it's a great way to just get going, because that's so much of what entrepreneurship is now. I think, there used to be this formal definition. I got to incorporate and get a C Corp or my LLC going, and I have to raise capital, and I have to, today you can just get started to create a brand. If it's a consulting business, get that first or second client lined up, and make the time for it during your full-time job. If it is, creating a digital platform, start developing, the design of the product. Find that designer, find that developer, get going on that piece, because you've got the income coming in to supplement that. So I think it's, I'm a huge fan of doing that, but just manage your expectations on how far you can actually get, because there's no way that you're going to be able to devote the time that this business needs to fully execute its potential, right? So really just think of it as a way to get started without taking such a massive risk. So I'm a fan of it, but at a certain point, you do need to step away from your full-time job to really give this business the full opportunity and attention that it deserves.
Great advice. We were talking just a moment ago about the importance of bringing women together to actually not only be interested in what's going on, but to start taking action together and to feel inspired by one another and so forth. So there's a question here from Kylie Dettering from Philadelphia, who would like your insight into how to motivate to action within a group of other women and get out of the combat zone, she says, of venting through talking. So like maybe talk less, do more. How do you think we can get there?
I think that it depends on the context of the group, right? If you're at a corporation, I've heard that there are, women's groups and meetings where women come together and it's really always the same conversation. They complain about the same things. I think that, somebody needs to step up within the group and take the lead.
What a good phrase.
Yeah, you need somebody to step up, take the lead, and say, okay, what's our goal here? We're talking about a million things, and given the skill sets and given who the people are that are part of that group, collectively, what can we do together to achieve one thing that takes us forward? That's an example of what a group can do, but somebody needs to step up, and just the fact that this person asked that question, maybe she's the woman to take the lead within her group. So I think it is, so much of it is instinctual. I think entrepreneurship and activism and all of this is, just solve the problem. It's all very practical and it's not that complicated. It's not that, it's very intuitive for women, and women have that ability. We have to trust in our own instincts, and we just need to, I work by, I always say like three things, like what is the goal, what's the plan to get there, and then taking the action. It's three simple things. Just do that on a micro level, and then you'll start making progress, and then your confidence builds, and then you start taking bigger steps and make bigger goals and bigger progress. So just get going.
I think that is a great place to start wrapping up, and just ask you if there's any last bit of advice you'd like to give to women. And then I'm going to ask you for a couple of other key questions that we ask women all the time, and I know you're going to end up by giving women a specific exercise they can practice. So we're going to do all those things in these last few moments, and I want to thank everybody for their questions, and just give you a moment to see if there's something specific that you want to make sure that you got to say. And what is that? What would be that?
Lately, I've been in terms of the revolution that we're fighting, and all women's issues and where women are. I think one of the things is to realize as women is that the glass ceiling that we need to shatter, and the odds that the obstacles we need to overcome. The greatest glass ceiling is in our minds. I think that, for women, we hold our mind, our mental self-talk is really is the first biggest thing that holds us back. And I think getting really honest with yourself and journaling and writing down, what are the things that I tell myself, the limited beliefs that I say to myself, the things that continue to paralyze me and hold me back. Get those 3 things down on paper, or 10 things, or however many it is, and really start changing your relationship with those things. And for all of us, we have them. It's something like female self-talk is extremely critical and extremely, it holds us back beyond, like, we don't even see how much it holds ourselves back. So if we can change that voice in our minds to something positive and empowering versus disempowering, then that will unleash us literally to then take bigger steps and to act on what is our natural destiny. So I think that's a major thing that I want all women during this event to really think about.
So there probably are. You've been very upbeat today, by the way, Claudia, and I really appreciate that because I think the attitude that you start with informs and propels very much of success or not having success. Yeah. To be honest with you, but we all have our moments. We all have our moments where we're not quite so upbeat, or we think, oh my goodness, I've been pushing this boulder uphill and I don't know if I can keep doing it, or it's falling down on me, or something like that. So we have a question that we always ask people on our virtual happy hours, our Take the Lead monthly virtual happy hours, and it is, do you have a personal go-to song that gets you powered up when you are starting to feel a little bit low and blue?
For me, it's not so much a song as it is, for me, it's honestly spirituality. For me, it is sitting in meditation, and it's just doing a powerful prayer, and because it's just reconnecting to, that rootedness that I was talking about, that the mission that drives me, the why I exist on this planet, what am I here to do thing. So I do a really powerful prayer to God and to the universe, and often I actually speak verbally. I do the prayer out loud, and to sort of reconnect me and reroute me on, like, why am I doing this again, and what am I afraid of again, and then I just sort of click back in. I click back into my groove again. So for me, it's not really music. It's really more of something much more spiritual.
Sounds like you sing your own song.
That's right.
Sing your own song. Absolutely. Well, we promised that you would give our listeners, our participants tonight, a take-home exercise. And I know that you have something that you call pre-paving. Mm-hmm. Very curious to know what that is, and if you would share that exercise with our viewers tonight.
Sure. So, I think, you're talking about, we all have our days, and or we can wake up in the morning and feel overwhelmed by how much there is to do, or it could be in the middle of the day, and we sort of get stuck, and we start feeling insecure with ourselves, and or an event happens that triggers it. So what pre-paving, and I learned this through life coaching, is, what it is you actually write down, and I like to do this in the mornings, and I try to do it daily, but I write down the day as if it's already happened in the most ideal scenario that would be possible. So for example, if I'm starting a day where I have like 4 or 5 or 7 or 8 conference calls, and this proposal is due, and I have to have a strategic discussion with my team on XYZ, and a PR interview, and it just feels overwhelming to me. I basically will write out. An example would be, and I pretend as if I'm already in bed, about to go to bed at night, and it's like, what an incredible, what a insanely remarkable day today was. I was a super ninja goddess today. I knocked out those calls. They went exceedingly well. Blah, blah, blah. Partnership is moving forward. We also just got a confirmation that XYZ funding is coming through the door. And then a miracle happened today. I was walking down the street and I bumped into blah blah blah, who's going to be who now is likely going to speak at our conference. And it's just this it's just this pre-paving, and you're almost you're putting out in the universe this fun and wild version, right, of how really you want the day to manifest. And so what happens is that after, and I'm in bed now, and I had an incredible dinner, caught up with my girlfriends, even got in a yoga workout, and I'm just, just feel so fulfilled and grateful for everything I have, right? Boom, that's the pre-pave. And then I write that, and then I actually then read through it again, and then I take on its energy. I really truly try to feel this was the day. This is what happened. And then what you do is you borrow from the energy, the positive energy, the strength, the success of that statement, and you basically bring that energy in you and through you throughout the entire day, so that when you do hop on those conference calls and you are running from meeting to meeting and you are juggling so much, you feel incredible about who you are and what you've done. And that's actually the natural state we should always be in, by the way, right? And energy is so important. Our confidence, how we feel, it affects how people perceive us. It affects what we project and how we communicate. Are we communicating confidently, or are we communicating in a timid fashion, right? So this is all, so that's what I call pre-paving. And sometimes I'll just do that for the day, or I'll do that for, on my flight to Asia, I pre-paved as if it was I came back from the trip. Oh my God, this trip was the most incredible trip of my life, XYZ, or I'll pre-pave by, the end of S.H.E Summit. It's the end of S.H.E Summit, and here's what happened over the last 6 months. Or it's the end of the year, and this is what I achieved in 2015. So you can pre-pave on a daily basis, or you can pre-pave the year. So you're really putting yourself into the state, into the most empowered version of the state that you want to be in, to go out there and execute your plan. So it's a great tool to use to keep yourself motivated and positive, and that's everything.
Thank you so much for that exercise. I am sure that it is going to help many, many people who are watching and with us for this webcast. And I think that has been just an amazing exercise for us to take with us. I just also want you to know that we've had many additional questions, and I'm sure that if people will tweet you at Claudia Chan, that you will continue to interact with them, and that you'd be happy to hear from the questions we didn't get to, because I thank everyone who sent your questions in. This is really what makes these webcasts meaningful and powerful. So thank you so much to everyone. And as we start to close out, I also want to just encourage people to know that they can continue this conversation either on the Take the Lead community on our Mighty Bell platform, on our Facebook page, on LinkedIn, or Twitter. We want to keep this conversation going. The communication piece of this is incredibly important for all of us to continue to not just to feel that strength that you described so aptly, Claudia, but to be able to share it with each other and leverage it off of each other and be even better together, as someone in your video said. And as we close out, and as I thank you, Claudia, for doing this, I know that you want to give a special S.H.E Summit discount code to people who would like to go ahead and get registered soon. So what is that special offer that you'd like to share with people?
Actually, we want to offer a discount to Take the Lead members. But the best thing to do is actually go to claudiachan.com and sign up for our newsletter. And basically just note that you found out about us through Take the Lead, and then we'll make a note. And if you're interested in attending S.H.E Summit, we'll send you a promo code.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so just sign up at claudiachan.com, and you'll get my my newsletters that go out a few times a month, and we'll make sure you get hooked up at S.H.E Summit 2015. And that's if you're in New York City. And then obviously, if you are outside of New York City and you want to host a meetup around the conference or just participate in other capacity, just please email us at office@claudiachan.com. Office@claudiachan.com, and we'll send you our toolkits and figure out how to work together around this year's conference.
Well, and I encourage everyone to do so. And Claudia, again, thank you so much. Really huge thanks to you. Claudia Chan, co-founder of S.H.E Globl Media, has been our special guest tonight for our virtual happy hour. And I look forward to seeing all of you for the next one, which will be May 13th, for journalist Jessica Bennett, who will be talking with us about mansplaining and man-interrupting, and we'll also be giving you some very important and helpful tips and tools for what we call gender bilingual communication. Again, we'd love to keep the conversation going on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Stay with us. Sign up for our Take the Lead This Week newsletter for your 5-minute shot of the latest news about women's leadership. You can do that at taketheleadwomen.com, and you'll be the first to know about our courses and programs. As always, Take the Lead is your resource. We want to be here to work with you and help you and provide programming for your organization or for you personally on your leadership journey. And remember that hashtag, we're going to get to leadership parity by 25, not 95. Thanks again, everybody. See you next month.
Bye.
Bye, Claudia.